The year was 2012. Monica Lawson, a 28-year-old paralegal, had worked tirelessly to get to where she was. For the last 3 years, she had been a valuable member of Kingston and Associates, a prestigious law firm in the heart of downtown Atlanta. She had risen from an intern who struggled to find her footing to a trusted and highly respected paralegal, handling sensitive legal cases for high-profile clients. Monica had spent her life proving herself. She knew she had to work twice as hard as her colleagues, who often seemed to glide through life with their privilege. But she had done it. Monica had earned her place. Or so she thought. It was on a bright Monday morning when everything changed. Monica had received a call from Bradley Kingston, the CEO of the firm, a man whose towering reputation filled the rooms of the office. He called her into his office, a simple request that sent a ripple of unease through her. Nothing ever good came of these kinds of meetings. Monica had been called into Bradley's office before, but this time felt different. The hallway leading to his office was unusually quiet, the usual clatter of keyboards and phones silenced, as if the building itself had held its breath in anticipation. She entered the sleek glass-paneled office, where Bradley sat behind his large desk, fingers steepled in front of him. His cold, calculating eyes met hers as she stepped into the room. "Monica, have a seat," he said, the formality of his voice causing her stomach to tighten. She did as told, the leather chair creaking under her weight. "Monica, this isn't easy for me to say," Bradley started, his voice smooth but without a trace of warmth. "But we've received complaints about your attitude." Monica's heart raced. She had worked so hard, rarely taking a sick day, never late to work, always going above and beyond. Her mind flashed through the interactions she had had over the last few weeks. There were no signs of anything out of the ordinary. "Complaints? About me?" she managed to ask, though her voice trembled. Bradley glanced at her, his lips curling into a brief, almost imperceptible smile. "You know, Monica, your attitude doesn't fit with the values of this firm. We've always been about excellence, and I don't think you understand your place here." Her eyes widened in confusion. "Her place? I don't think you get it, Monica," Bradley continued, leaning back in his chair, his gaze unwavering. "Your demeanor is a distraction. We need people who blend in, who don't stir the pot." Monica blinked, feeling the sting of the words in her chest. What was he really saying? "You're not the right fit for Kingston and Associates anymore," Bradley declared, his eyes never leaving hers. "I'm sorry, but we have to let you go." The words were like a punch to the gut. Fired. Monica's world crumbled. She stared at Bradley, unable to believe what she was hearing. "But I've worked so hard. I've put everything into this firm, into this job," she pleaded, her voice desperate. "You can't be serious." Bradley gave a small shake of his head, his cold expression never wavering. "This isn't personal, Monica. It's business. You're just not who we need right now. We don't have a place for someone who doesn't know how to behave in the environment we've created here." The words hit Monica like a freight train. She stood there, shocked into silence, her world spinning around her. This wasn't about performance. This wasn't about her skills or her abilities. This was about something else. It hit her like a wave. It was racism. Bradley wasn't speaking to her as a colleague, as a valuable employee. He was speaking to her as if she were less than, someone who didn't belong in the professional circles that Kingston and Associates inhabited. Her hard work and skills didn't matter. To Bradley, Monica's worth was defined by the color of her skin. Her legs felt weak as she stood up, nodding numbly. "I understand," she whispered, but the words didn't feel real. They were empty. She wasn't giving up. She wasn't going to leave without a fight. Monica walked out of that office, tears threatening to fall, but she refused to let them. She wasn't going to cry for him. The hurt and humiliation were raw, but she was determined that this would not define her. Bradley had no idea what he had done. He had just made a huge mistake. Building the protagonist's journey. For the first few days after the firing, Monica barely slept. She kept replaying the events in her mind, questioning where she had gone wrong. Was she not good enough? Had she not worked hard enough? She considered getting another job, but nothing felt right. No firm would hire her after she'd been let go by Kingston and Associates. But then, one sleepless night, she had an epiphany. She had to rise above it. She wasn't going to play the victim. She was going to use this injustice to fuel her rise. The pain and humiliation would be her driving force. She began applying for jobs, sending out resumes, and hustling to make ends meet. But she quickly realized that no one was willing to hire a black woman who had been fired from such a prestigious firm, especially for no real reason. She was being blacklisted. But instead of giving up, Monica chose to take matters into her own hands. She wasn't going to just find a job, she was going to create her own. Monica decided to start her own law firm, focusing on the issues that were close to her heart: racial injustice, employment discrimination, and inequality. She took out a small loan and used her connections, starting with a handful of clients who also faced racial injustice in their workplace or in their personal lives. Her first few cases were tough, the pay wasn't great, but Monica kept going. She built a reputation for being tough, resilient, and unafraid to take on powerful companies who thought they could get away with discrimination. Monica wasn't just building a business. She was building a legacy. Every case she won was a small victory against the system that had tried to crush her. With each win, she gained more clients, more support, and more respect in the legal community. Her business grew, and so did her confidence. The chip on her shoulder became her greatest asset, driving her to work harder and more strategically than anyone else. Monica Lawson was becoming a force to be reckoned with. She didn't just want a career, she wanted justice. She wanted to bring down the very system that had tried to break her. Monica sat back in her chair, staring at the name on the letterhead, Kingston and Associates. The same firm that had fired her 10 years ago, dismissing her because of the color of her skin, was now asking for her help. Monica's mind raced as she read through the letter, her pulse quickening. It wasn't just a letter, it was an invitation. Dear Monica Lawson, we are in need of your legal expertise. As you know, Kingston and Associates has recently encountered a series of legal challenges regarding discriminatory practices. As our former employee, we are aware of your profound understanding of racial justice and would like to discuss the possibility of working together. Please contact us as soon as possible to arrange a meeting. Sincerely, Bradley Kingston, CEO, Kingston and Associates. Monica sat in stunned silence for a long moment. She couldn't believe what she was reading. Bradley Kingston, the very man who had humiliated her, was now reaching out for her help. It was as if he had forgotten who she was, who he had once destroyed. Had he lost his mind? But something inside Monica stirred. This was her moment. Fate had come full circle, and now she had the upper hand. Should she take the meeting? A sense of satisfaction coursed through her veins as she thought about the possibility. This was it, the opportunity to turn the tables. To have the chance to face Bradley Kingston again, this time with the power to control the situation. But there was something else that tugged at her, the temptation of revenge. Monica knew she had worked hard to build something of her own. Her firm was growing, her reputation was solid, and she didn't need Kingston and Associates anymore. But, deep down, she also understood that justice wasn't always about moving forward, sometimes it meant confronting the past. And Bradley Kingston had never truly paid for the way he had treated her. As she stared at the letter, Monica made up her mind. She would meet him, but this time, the rules were hers to dictate. The day of the meeting arrived, and Monica found herself standing outside the towering glass building of Kingston and Associates. The lobby still looked the same, elegant and intimidating, with its polished floors and high ceilings. Everything about it screamed power, privilege, and wealth. Everything she had once felt excluded from. Monica straightened her back, adjusting the black blazer she wore. She wasn't the same young woman who had walked through these doors all those years ago. She had changed, and now she was about to take control of the narrative. She walked into the elevator, her heart pounding. She could hear the faint sound of classical music playing in the background. A reminder of how far removed she had been from this world, how far removed from people like Bradley Kingston. When the elevator doors opened to the top floor, she was greeted by the same receptionist who had once handed her coffee, barely acknowledging her. Now, the woman's expression faltered as she recognized Monica's face. She hesitated for a moment before speaking. "Ms. Lawson, Mr. Kingston is expecting you," the receptionist said, her voice a little too cordial. Monica nodded and followed the receptionist down the long hallway to Bradley Kingston's office. As they approached the door, Monica could hear voices on the other side, low murmurs of conversation. The door opened, and there he was, Bradley Kingston, the man who had once thrown her out like trash, now sitting behind his massive oak desk, wearing the same smug expression he always had. But today, Monica could feel something different in the air. Bradley looked up from his desk, his face lighting up as if they were old friends. "Monica, it's good to see you again," he said, rising to shake her hand. "I'm glad you could come in today." Monica shook his hand, but there was no warmth in her eyes. "Bradley," she replied flatly. "I'm sure you didn't bring me here to reminisce." Bradley laughed nervously, then gestured to the chair across from him. "Please, have a seat. I know things ended badly between us, but we're past that, right?" Monica sat down, her posture rigid, her mind focused. This was the moment. The moment where the roles reversed. "Let's get to the point, Bradley," she said, cutting through the pleasantries. "Why exactly did you reach out to me?" Bradley shifted in his chair, clearly uncomfortable. "We've had some trouble recently," he said, his voice tight. "The firm has been accused of discrimination in multiple cases. We're facing a lot of legal backlash. I need someone with experience in racial justice to help us clean up our image. And given your background, Monica, I thought you'd be the perfect person for the job." Monica's jaw tightened. This was it, the moment she had dreamed of. But her response was cold and calculated, without an ounce of emotion. "I think you've mistaken me for someone who needs your money or approval, Bradley. I don't. In fact, I'm the last person who's going to help you save face," Monica replied, her voice steady. "But I'll tell you this, I'm willing to listen. If I decide to help you, I'll do it on my terms." Bradley's face faltered. "I understand. I respect that. Just let me know what you need, Monica, and we can work something out." Monica leaned forward, her gaze locking with his. "You want my help, Bradley? Then you'll need to pay for the wrongs you've done. And that's not just financial." Bradley frowned, not understanding what she meant. "What do you mean?" Monica smiled, but it wasn't a friendly one. "You think you can just erase your mistakes with a check? No, Bradley. You'll be paying for every injustice, every life you've ruined, and every career you've destroyed. I'm going to expose you." Bradley's face drained of color. Was she threatening him? Monica stood up, looking down at him from across the desk. "Consider this your warning, Bradley. The real question is, can you survive the truth I'm about to unleash?" She turned and walked out of his office, leaving him behind to stew in his confusion and growing fear. Outside, as Monica descended in the elevator, she pulled out her phone. Her fingers flew over the keys as she began drafting a public statement, preparing to take Bradley Kingston down once and for all. She had already lined up the key players, whistleblowers, victims of his discrimination, and even former employees who would speak out. But as she typed, she couldn't shake the feeling that this wouldn't be an easy fight. Kingston and Associates wasn't just a law firm, it was an empire. And taking down an empire wasn't as simple as sending out a press release. The following days were a whirlwind. Monica Lawson had become a woman on a mission. After her meeting with Bradley Kingston, she felt more determined than ever. The gloves were off, and the stakes had never been higher. She wasn't just taking down a man who had wronged her. She was taking on the very system that had allowed men like Bradley to wield power unchecked, destroying the lives of people like herself. Monica began putting her plan into action. She called in her contacts, former employees of Kingston and Associates, those who had been mistreated or pushed out. She gathered their testimonies and documented their stories, each one more damning than the last. These were not just stories of workplace discrimination, these were stories of exploitation, racism, and abuse of power. Her firm, Lawson Legal Services, had already gained a reputation for standing up against the powerful, but now Monica was about to make her biggest mark yet. She wasn't going to just win cases, she was going to make an example out of Bradley Kingston and his firm. As she sat in her office, reviewing the files and evidence, her phone buzzed. A text message from an anonymous source had come through, and the name at the top caught her attention. "I know what you're doing, and I can help." Monica hesitated for a moment before opening the message. It was from someone inside Kingston and Associates, a former employee who had worked closely with Bradley. The message read, "Bradley Kingston's dirty laundry goes much deeper than you think. The embezzlement? That's just the tip of the iceberg. If you want to bring him down, you need to look at his offshore accounts. He's been laundering money through fake companies for years." Monica's heart raced. This was the break she had been waiting for. Bradley Kingston had always seemed untouchable, but now, he was about to face the full force of her wrath. Monica began to move quickly, contacting forensic accountants, private investigators, and even a few whistleblowers within Kingston and Associates. She'd learned long ago that it wasn't enough to have one or two people who were willing to testify. She needed a network, a movement, to expose what Bradley had been doing behind the scenes. Her firm had already built a solid reputation, but this case would take everything she had learned, every ounce of her intelligence and grit, and turn it into something bigger. She would turn the tide, not just for herself but for all the people who had been crushed by Bradley Kingston's abuse of power. As Monica's investigation deepened, she uncovered shocking details about Bradley's financial dealings. There were multiple companies with suspiciously similar names, each of them funneling money into offshore accounts that were linked to fake business deals. It was a web of lies and corruption, and Monica had just found the key to unraveling it all. But there was more. Monica's contact had given her access to a hidden email that contained conversations between Bradley and other high-ranking officials, discussing how to avoid accountability and destroy evidence. Bradley had a network of people who were ready to help him cover his tracks, people who had turned a blind eye for years. Monica's heart pounded with the realization that Bradley's empire wasn't just built on exploitation, it was built on criminal activity. She had the evidence she needed. But Bradley Kingston wasn't going to go down quietly. She knew that. He would do everything in his power to fight back. 2 weeks later, Monica sat across from her team, her mind buzzing with the weight of everything they had uncovered. Her investigators had found links to money laundering and corporate fraud stretching back for over a decade. Her legal team had prepared the necessary filings to expose Kingston and Associates in court. The media was already chomping at the bit, waiting for a scandal of this magnitude to break. But Monica wasn't done yet. She had one last piece of the puzzle to reveal. The moment that would make Bradley face the consequences of his actions. She called an emergency press conference, knowing that the moment she stepped in front of the cameras, there would be no going back. Bradley Kingston would no longer be the powerful figure he once was. He would be exposed as the corrupt, manipulative fraud he truly was. The day of the press conference arrived. Monica stood backstage, her stomach in knots. But there was no fear, only a quiet resolve. She knew what she was about to do would change everything. As the doors opened, she walked out onto the stage, her head held high. The sea of cameras flashed in front of her, but she was focused only on the task at hand. "Good afternoon," she began, her voice steady and confident. "Today, we bring to light the truth about Kingston and Associates. For years, Bradley Kingston and his firm have exploited employees, manipulated the system, and engaged in criminal activity that has harmed countless lives. It's time for justice to be served. The room fell silent as Monica began to lay out the details, each fact more shocking than the last. She spoke about the offshore accounts, the money laundering, the discrimination and corruption that had poisoned every aspect of Kingston's business. The media was captivated. The truth was finally coming to light. And then, Monica dropped the bombshell. Bradley Kingston, she said, her voice growing louder, has been taking kickbacks from some of the biggest corporations in the world, laundering money through fake businesses. His empire is built on lies, deceit, and systemic racism. But today, we expose him for what he truly is, a criminal. As Monica finished her speech, the world seemed to pause. The cameras were still rolling, capturing the raw power of the moment. Bradley Kingston's empire was crumbling, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. But Monica knew the fight wasn't over. Bradley would fight back, he would try to discredit her, use his wealth and influence to silence her. The next few days would be critical. Monica's phone buzzed. It was a message from her lawyer. Bradley Kingston is going to fight this tooth and nail. Get ready for the hardest battle of your life. Monica took a deep breath. She was ready. This wasn't just about her. This was about exposing the system that had allowed Bradley Kingston, and men like him, to thrive on the backs of the oppressed. But as she prepared for the final showdown, something unexpected happened. Bradley Kingston's lawyer made an offer. And this offer would change everything. If you've been inspired by Monica's journey so far, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for the final chapter. Justice is not always swift, but Monica is about to show the world that standing up to power is the only way to create lasting change. Don't miss the epic conclusion where everything Monica has fought for will come to fruition. What would you do if you were in Monica's shoes? Let us know in the comments below, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Victory is never about what you've lost, but what you've gained along the way. The atmosphere was tense as Monica Lawson stood outside the courthouse, her heart pounding with anticipation. The last few weeks had been a whirlwind, with every step feeling like it could be her last. But today, she was ready for the final battle. She had fought for 10 long years to get here, and nothing, no matter how powerful or rich, would stop her from seeing Bradley Kingston pay for the lives he had ruined. As Monica entered the courtroom, she felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. She was no longer just a paralegal from Kingston and Associates. She was the woman who had built an empire of justice from the ground up, and now, she was going to take down the man who had tried to destroy her. Bradley Kingston sat across the room, his usual smug expression replaced by a look of nervous apprehension. His once pristine suit now felt like a prison, a cage built on years of manipulation and greed. Monica couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction seeing him squirm. "Your Honor," Monica began, standing tall and addressing the judge, "today, we are not just fighting for justice for myself, we are fighting for all the people who Bradley Kingston and his firm have hurt over the years. We are here to expose the truth." The courtroom was silent as Monica laid out the case against Bradley Kingston, presenting the damning evidence she had uncovered, the offshore accounts, the falsified documents, the discriminatory practices that had been swept under the rug for far too long. Every fact, every document, every witness, seemed to push Bradley Kingston further toward the edge. Bradley's lawyer tried to argue, claiming that Monica's accusations were baseless, that she had a vendetta. But Monica had prepared for this. She knew exactly how to turn his own words against him. She turned to the judge, her voice firm and steady. "Bradley Kingston has built his wealth and reputation on lies. He used his position to exploit those he deemed beneath him. He humiliated me once, but this isn't just about me. This is about holding him accountable for all the lives he's destroyed. We cannot let men like him continue to operate with impunity." As the courtroom waited in anticipation, the judge nodded solemnly. The tension was unbearable. Bradley Kingston, the man who had once been untouchable, now found himself cornered, his empire unraveling. The verdict was delivered, and Bradley Kingston was found guilty on multiple counts: fraud, embezzlement, and discriminatory practices. It wasn't just a victory for Monica, it was a victory for everyone who had been oppressed and ignored by those in power. As the gavel struck and the courtroom erupted in applause, Monica stood still for a moment, letting the weight of the victory wash over her. She had done it. She had taken down the man who had tried to break her. But Monica's journey didn't end there. Justice had been served, but it wasn't just about taking down a powerful man. For Monica, it was about using her pain, her struggles, and her determination to build something that would last. In the years that followed, Lawson Legal Services grew even stronger. Monica became one of the most respected figures in the legal world, known for her relentless pursuit of justice. She worked tirelessly to create opportunities for people from underprivileged backgrounds, offering scholarships and internships to those who needed it most. She didn't just want to win cases, she wanted to change the system that had allowed people like Bradley Kingston to thrive. But the greatest victory of all came when Monica received a call from the Department of Labor. The $20 million settlement for the victims of Kingston and Associates exploitation was finalized. The discriminatory practices Monica had exposed had led to a massive overhaul of corporate policies in several industries. Bradley Kingston's downfall wasn't just financial, it was moral. His name became synonymous with greed and exploitation, while Monica's legacy was built on the foundation of justice, compassion, and integrity. Her triumph wasn't in taking him down, it was in building something greater in its place. But the story doesn't end with Monica's success. It's about all of us. Each of us has the power to take the injustices we face and use them to fuel our growth. Monica Lawson's journey proves that even in the face of humiliation and adversity, we can rise. We can build empires, fight for what's right, and create legacies that change the world. If you've been inspired by Monica's transformation, her unwavering strength, and her fight for justice, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. What part of Monica's story resonated with you the most? How have you turned your own struggles into triumphs? Subscribe to Black Voices for more stories that prove that justice, redemption, and self-empowerment can turn pain into power and adversity into success. Together, we can build a world where no one has to suffer in silence, and no one's voice is ever ignored again. Monica Lawson never forgot the day she had walked out of Kingston and Associates, but she also never let it define her. Instead, it became the driving force behind everything she achieved. She proved that the best revenge is not to destroy those who've hurt you, but to surpass them in ways they never thought possible. And as she stood before the world, watching the empire of greed and oppression crumble, Monica Lawson's story reminded us all, true strength is not in what we tear down, but in what we build.